There are more than 13 million of these shops in India. They sit on every corner, in every colony, in every small town, and together they still move the majority of everything this country eats and cleans with. Almost nobody outside the trade understands how the money actually flows through one. So let's open the books.
Everything starts with capital, and this is where most people badly underestimate the business. A Kirana store looks like something you can open with a few lakh rupees and some shelves. In a Tier 2 city, on a residential main road, in roughly 400 square feet, here is what it actually takes before a single packet is sold.
11 lakh rupees. And notice the largest single line is not the rent or the fittings. It is the stock sitting on those shelves. 4 lakh rupees of inventory. And that money stays trapped there for as long as the shop exists. You do not get it back until the day you shut down. Now, the part almost everyone gets wrong. A Kirana store looks like a very high revenue business, and it genuinely is. Money moves through that counter all day. But revenue is not the number that matters here. The number that matters is what is left after the goods are paid for. 9 lakh rupees flows through the till in a month. 70,000 of it stays. That is a net margin of under 8%, and the owner is standing behind that counter for every one of those days himself. Take his own labor out, put a paid manager in that chair, and the business barely breaks even. And not every shelf earns the same. This is the single most important thing to understand about the business, because it explains every decision a good shopkeeper makes about what to stock and where to put it. Rice, wheat, and pulses move enormous volume at around 4%, which is closer to a public service than a business. They exist to bring people through the door. The shop actually survives on the small things. Loose snacks, cold drinks, and personal care carry the entire operation on their backs. Which is why the layout of every Kirana store in India is identical. And it is not an accident. The low-margin staples are at the back. You have to walk past everything profitable to reach them. The impulse buys sit at the counter, where your hand already is. There is a second game being played here that customers never see. Distributors offer better rates for bulk pickups, and they offer credit periods of 2 or 3 weeks. Take the bigger quantity, and your margin improves by 2 or 3%. Take too much of the wrong thing, and it sits on your shelf for 4 months as dead capital. This is the number a good shopkeeper actually optimizes. Turning your stock 22 times a year at 18% margin earns far more than turning it 4 times at 35. Milk and bread barely make anything per packet, but they turn over 90 times a year, and that is what pays the rent. And the year is not flat. A Kirana store makes a disproportionate share of its annual profit in about 8 weeks around the festive season, and it has to fund that inventory buildup months in advance, out of its own pocket, with no guarantee of how the season will go. Then there is the part that never appears in any business plan, the udhaar book. Credit extended to regular families, settled at the end of the month, recorded in pen, enforced by nothing but reputation. About 1 rupee in 5 goes out on credit. Most of it comes back. A small slice never does. But the real cost is not the bad debt. It is the 2 lakh rupees that is permanently sitting in other people's kitchens instead of on your shelves. That is capital you paid for and cannot use. And then, in the last 3 years, everything changed. 10-minute delivery apps arrived, with warehouses in the same neighborhoods, buying at a scale no corner shop can match, and willing to lose money on every single order to take the customer. Here is the comparison that actually matters. Look at it closely. The app is not earning more per item than the shop. It is earning almost exactly the same. The difference is that the app has investors funding the gap for a decade, and the shopkeeper has only his own savings and a loan against his house. So the shops that are surviving have done one of 2 things. They have either become the delivery point themselves, taking orders on the phone and running them to the door in 5 minutes, or they have leaned into the one thing an application has never managed to replicate: credit, trust, and knowing the family by name for 20 years. The shops that changed nothing have been hit hardest. The ones that adapted are flat or slightly ahead. And notably, the shops in neighborhoods that run heavily on credit have barely moved at all because you cannot get an informal loan from an app. And there is one more cost that never appears on any statement. Almost every shop in this country runs partly on unpaid family labor. A wife restocking, a son at the till after school, a brother covering the afternoon. Strip that out, and the profit figure looks very different. Here is the same shop with every hour of work paid at market rate. 70,000 becomes 26. 76% return becomes 28. Still a decent business, but now it is an ordinary one. And that gap is the value of the owner's own time. Which brings us to the question every successful owner eventually faces. Why not open a second one? Because the thing that makes the first shop work does not copy. The relationships, the credit judgment, the instinct for what to stock, all of it lives in one person's head. Put a hired man at the second counter, and you get a shop with the same costs and half the margin. So let's put the whole thing together honestly, the way you would if someone offered to sell you this shop tomorrow morning. There is also the compliance layer, which has grown considerably in the last decade. Registration, monthly returns, an accountant on retainer, and the quiet reality that once most of your payments arrive digitally, every rupee of your turnover is visible. For a generation of shopkeepers who ran on cash and memory, that has been the single biggest adjustment of their working lives. And if you ever want out, this is roughly what you would get. 28 lakh rupees against 11 lakh deployed, on a business you ran for years. That is a real gain. But notice how much of it is simply your own inventory and deposit coming back to you. 76% return on capital sounds extraordinary, and on paper it genuinely is. Almost no business in the country returns that. But spread it across 84 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, and the owner is earning under 200 rupees an hour for his own time. That is the honest number. The Kirana store is one of the most resilient business models this country has ever produced. It survives on relationships that no algorithm has managed to price, and it has absorbed every disruption thrown at it for a century. But be clear about what you are buying when you open one. You are not buying an investment. You are buying yourself a very demanding job that happens to come with a very good return on capital. Whether that trade is worth making is the only question that actually matters.